Good evening, television fans. Big Al here on this Sunday, March 22nd, 2026, and we are back with another edition of Television Station History. This is episode 21, taking a look at KCAL-TV, which is one of LA's oldest television stations and also one of the oldest on the West Coast. So with that, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. And here we go with the TV station history of KCAL-TV. And this is from Wikipedia, as always. KCAL-TV Channel 9 is an independent television station in Los Angeles, California. It is owned by the CBS News and Stations Group alongside CBS West Coast flagship KCBS-TV Channel 2. The two stations share studios at the Rafford Studio Center on Rafford Avenue in the Studio City section of Los Angeles, while KCAL-TV's transmitter is located atop Mount Wilson. So here are the specs on KCAL-TV Los Angeles. The station broadcasts on virtual and RF digital channel 9. On-air brand is KCAL 9 or CBS LA. We'll dive into the sub-channels at the end. The station is owned by CBS News and Stations and licensed by Los Angeles television station KCAL LLC. Its sister station is, of course, KCBS-TV Channel 2, the West Coast flagship of the CBS television network. KCAL-TV was founded on August 25th, 1948, and signed on officially as KFI-TV on October 6, 1948. The station would become KHJ-TV in 1951, and then the present-day KCAL-TV in 1989. The station previously aired on VHF Analog Channel 9 from 1948 to 2009, and on RF Digital Channel 43 from 2001 to 2009. KCAL-TV formerly was affiliated with the Dumont Television Network from 1954 to 1956 and the United Network in 1967. Their call sign meaning is pretty straightforward: California. Licensing authority is the Federal Communications Commission. Their facility ID is 21422. They have an effective rated power of 25,000 watts. Their transmitter sits 977 meters or 3,205 feet above sea level, located on Mount Wilson, which is northeast of Los Angeles. The station also has a network of translator stations across Southern California. We'll get to those at the end. Their website is www.cbsnews.com/Los Angeles. Now let's dive into the history. KFI-TV from 1948 to 1951. Channel 9 signed on the air as commercial station KFI-TV on August 25th, 1948, owned by Earl C. Anthony alongside KFI Radio 640 AM. However, the station was originally licensed as experimental station W6XEA about 1940, and in 1944 applied for the call letters KSEE, which are presently being used on the NBC television station in Fresno. It is unknown whether any transmissions occurred under either call sign. The station initially broadcast a limited schedule with 6 hours weekly and formally began operations on October 6, 1948 with 3.5 hours of programming that day. Though KFI had long been affiliated with NBC Radio, KFI-TV did not affiliate with the then upstart NBC television network, as NBC was building its own station, KNBH Channel 4, now known today as KNBC, which would go on the air in January 1949. KFI General Manager William B. Ryan indicated a willingness to affiliate with a network other than NBC or start a mutual regional network. Channel 9 has been an independent station for virtually its entire history, though it carried Dumont programming from 1954 up until the network's 1956 demise. At the third Emmy Awards in January 1951, the station won in the Best Educational Show category for KFI-TV University. And now here's the history of Channel 9 as KHJ-TV from 1951 to 1989. Channel 9's engineers threatened to go on strike in 1951 over financial reasons the station had to go through, leading Anthony to sell the station to the General Tire and Rubber Company. In August of that year, a few months earlier, General Tire had purchased the Don Lee Broadcasting System, original West Coast radio network, the original Don Lee television station, which was KTSL Channel 2, now KCBS-TV. What's up, Crazy Cajun? The regional West Coast radio network was sold separately to CBS, and Channel 2 would evolve into future sister station KCBS-TV. Don Lee's flagship station was KHJ Radio 930 AM, and General Tire changed its new television station's call letters to KHJ-TV in September 1951. One former employee referred to the call letters as standing for kindness, happiness, and joy, hence KHJ, although the call sign was likely randomly assigned. The Don Lee name was so well respected in California broadcasting that KHJ-TV called itself Don Lee Television for a few years in the early 1950s, even though it had never been affiliated with KHJ Radio until the 1951 deal. In 1955, General Tire purchased RKO Radio Pictures to give the company's television station group access to RKO's film library. In 1959, General Tire's broadcasting and film divisions were merged as RKO General. By the mid-1960s, Channel 9 offered a standard independent schedule of movies, off-network reruns, children's shows like The Pancake Man, hosted by Hal Smith, who showed educational shorts like The Space Explorers, plus first-run syndicated programs and locally produced programs including local newscasts, sporting events, and public affairs programs. In the late 1960s, KHJ embarked on a novel, groundbreaking, and inexpensive experiment called Tempo, which heavily borrowed from the talk radio craze on local radio stations. Daytime programming was divided into 3 blocks running 3 hours in length called Tempo 1, Tempo 2, and Tempo 3. The second of the 3 programs, Tempo 2, was perhaps the most active, controversial, and innovative. For the first couple of years, the hosts were Stan Bonham and Maria Cole, who was, of course, the wife of Nat King Cole. Guests ranged from William F. Buckley to Sammy Davis Jr. and the political movers and shakers in Southern California. At one point, Stan even quit the program after what he called censorship on the topic of Eldridge Cleaver. Bonham came back to the program and was joined by a new co-host, Regis Philbin. They became a very popular fixture in Los Angeles television. In fact, in his book about those days, Philbin credits the chemistry with Bonham and the format of the program as forerunners of much of what would become the cable news format 20 years later. In the early 70s, KHJ-TV sought a similar programming strategy, to that of crosstown competitor KTLA Channel 5, which focused more on talk shows, game shows, sports, feature films, and off-network drama series. The cartoons were phased out, some of them moving to KTTV Channel 11 and KCOP-TV Channel 13, and the station ran fewer off-network sitcoms. It did continue to have a weekday children's show called Fruzies, which ran until the late 80s. It also produced many half-hour public affairs programs, as well as a local talk show called Mid-Morning LA. The first hosts were Kathy McKee and Cindy Barry on the Midday and Good Morning LA talk shows. Both were hired by KHJ's then station manager Lionel Shan. Bob Hilton, Meredith McRae, Jeff Edwards, and Regis Philbin also hosted programs on the station well into the 80s. Edwards and McRae won Emmy Awards for their hosting duties during the early 1980s. Some other locally produced public affairs programs included the investigative show Camera 9 and The Changing Family, a program about family and social issues during the 1980s. Despite this, KHJ-TV was perceived as an also-ran, while KTLA was the leading independent station, even though it had a similar format. Sorry. Meanwhile, a behind-the-scenes battle was underway with serious implications for the station's future and that of its owner. In 1965, RKO General faced a threat to its license for KHJ-TV from a group called Fidelity Television. Hi Anna, how's it going? At first, Fidelity's claim focused on Channel 9's programming quality. Later, Fidelity levied a more serious claim that KHJ-TV was involved in reciprocal trade practices. Fidelity alleged that RKO's parent company, General Tire, forced its retailers to purchase advertising on KHJ-TV and other RKO-owned stations as a condition of their contracts with General Tire. An administrative law judge found in favor of Fidelity, but RKO appealed. In 1972, the FCC allowed RKO to keep the license for KHJ-TV, but 2 years later conditioned future renewals on the renewal of sister station WNAC-TV in Boston. 6 years later, the FCC stripped WNAC-TV of its license for numerous reasons, but largely because RKO had misled the commission about corporate misconduct at General Tire. The decision was affirmed after the Supreme Court declined to hear an appeal in April 1982. The FCC awarded a replacement license for Channel 7 in Boston to New England Television, a merger of two competing groups for a new Channel 7. RKO General sold off WNAC-TV's non-licensed assets to New England Television, who would then use them to launch WNEV-TV, now known as WHDH, in place of WNAC-TV on May 21st. The WNAC-TV decision also meant KHJ-TV and sister station WOR-TV in New York had lost their licenses, but an appeals court ruled that the FCC erred when it tied Channel 9's renewal to that of WNAC-TV and ordered new hearings for both KHJ-TV and WOR-TV. The hearings dragged on for 5 years. As a result of this, the station was forced to air an unusually large amount of public affairs programming, A combination of this and the station's cash reserves being drained by RKO's legal battles led to decreased ratings and the station's perception as an also-ran. For a time, Channel 9's large slate of sports programming was virtually the only thing keeping the station afloat. On August 11, 1987, FCC Administrative Law Judge Edward Coleman found RKO General unfit to be a broadcast license due to numerous cases of dishonesty on both its part and that of parent company GenCorp, which was the renamed General Tire, including fraudulent billing and lying about its ratings. Coleman ordered that all of RKO General's broadcast licenses be revoked. This ruling notably excluded WOR-TV, which had already been divested to MCA Incorporated 9 months prior, and was renamed WWOR-TV. GenCorp initially filed an appeal only to withdraw it after the FCC warned that any appeal would almost certainly be denied outright. The FCC strongly advised GenCorp to divest its remaining properties to avoid the indignity of additional license stripping without any compensation. And now, the history of KCAL-TV from 1989 to the present will begin with the station being under Disney ownership from 1988 to 1996. In the midst of RKO's corporate issues, the company reached terms to sell KCAL-TV to Westinghouse Broadcasting in November 1985. However, the protracted legal issues delayed FCC action on the transfer, and Westinghouse ultimately withdrew its offer. A short time later, RKO General agreed to sell the station to the Walt Disney Company. However, this transfer was also held up for over a year for the same reasons. Fidelity Television, the group that originally challenged the license in 1965, also argued against the state. In July 1988, the FCC allowed Disney to acquire Channel 9 for $324 million in a complicated settlement. RKO dropped its bid to renew the station's license, handing it to Fidelity Television. Disney then bought the Channel 9 license from Fidelity for $105.4 million, and KCAL-TV's non-licensed assets, which included intellectual property, studios, etc., from RKO for $218.6 million. According to FCC General Counsel Diane Killery, the settlement had the same effect as finding RKO unfit to be a broadcast license, and RKO thus had no choice but to get out of the business of broadcasting, though it would take another 3 years for RKO to unwind its broadcasting interests. Disney began operating Channel 9 on December 2, 1988. Over the next few months, Disney fired KCAL-TV's entire management team it inherited from RKO, including General Manager Charles Valona and News Director Stephanie Rank Brady. Several of the station's newscasters were pushed out as well. During the RKO/Fidelity/Disney transition, KCAL-TV's city of license was changed to the Los Angeles suburb of Norwalk, California, also as part of the FCC settlement. For all intents and purposes, though, it remained a Los Angeles station. The license was moved back to Los Angeles proper on October 28, 1991. On December 2, 1989, the first anniversary of its ownership, Disney changed Channel 9's call sign to the present KCAL-TV. and relaunched the station as California 9, selected from a short list of 3 possible monikers. Channel 9's longtime radio sisters had changed their call letters to KRTH some years before, so Disney was theoretically free to continue trading on the KHJ call letters' 66-year legacy in Southern California. However, newly hired station manager Blake Burns said that market research revealed the station was seen as a quote-unquote non-entity in the market, leading Disney to conclude that it needed a fresh start. Disney did, however, keep a fresco mural of RKO stars in the station lobby. The station also continued to overhaul its format in the wake of its ownership change, adding a 3-hour primetime newscast on March 5, 1990, featuring veteran newscasters Jerry Dunphy, Pat Harvey, Larry Carroll, and Jane Velez Mitchell. KCAL-TV also added many more children's programs, including cartoons from the Walt Disney Animation Library, including the syndicated series DuckTales and Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers, and later the Disney Afternoon. Hey, Christian, what's crackin'? The station also added a few more family-oriented off-network sitcoms and syndicated programs, and then broadcast the popular anime series Dragon Ball Z, which lasted well into 1997. In the early 90s, family sitcoms were gradually phased out, and KCAL added more first-run syndicated talk, reality, and court shows, as well as news magazine series. On March 30th, 1992, Disney agreed to sell KCAL-TV's license to Pinelands Incorporated, then the parent company of Channel 9's former New York City sister station, now WWOR-TV. Disney would have received a 45% ownership stake in Pinelands, allowing for increased original programming to be shared between the two reunited stations. The planned merger never materialized, as Pinelands would agree to sell New York's WWOR-TV to Chris Craft Industries, then parent company of KCOP Channel 13. In 1995, the station adopted the KCAL-9 branding. Alright, Young Broadcasting ownership from 1996 to 2002. In 1996, the Walt Disney Company purchased Capital Cities ABC, owners of ABC West Coast flagship KABC-TV Channel 7. Due to FCC regulations at the time that barred the ownership of 2 television stations in the same media market, Disney chose to retain KABC-TV and divest KCAL, which was purchased by Young Broadcasting, which Disney owned a stake in at the time. That took place on May 14, 1996 for $385 million. The afternoon children's programming block would remain on the station until 1999, when KCOP Channel 13 began airing a block of animated series that UPN contracted Disney to produce. By 2000, children's programs that aired during the morning hours were dropped, as well under the ownership of Young Broadcasting. CBS ownership, 2002 to the present. As a result of massive debt the company incurred from its 2000 purchase of its San Francisco station KRON-TV, Channel 4, which would lose the NBC affiliation in January 2002, due to a dispute between Young Broadcasting and NBC. Young Broadcasting put KCAL up for sale in 2002. With duopolies now allowed by the FCC, the station was purchased by CBS, then at the time a subsidiary of Viacom, on February 14, 2002. The deal would be finalized on January 1st of that year. KCAL's operations were merged with those of KCBS-TV, and Channel 9 moved from its longtime headquarters at the Viacom-owned Paramount Studios on Melrose Avenue in Hollywood to CBS Columbia Square, located about 1 mile north of the studio lot. The Melrose Avenue facility was subsequently occupied by then sister station KRTH, which had previously been based out of the Columbia Square facility, and is currently used by the Paramount Studio Tour. The sale reunited the station with fellow former RKO General property KRTH-FM, which CBS acquired in 1997. The properties were split again when CBS spun off its radio division to Entercom, known today as Odyssey Incorporated, in 2017. While CBS/Viacom bought KCAL-TV, broadcasting industry observers speculated that UPN's programming would move to Channel 9 from KCOP. KCOP's previous owners, Chris Craft Industries, had co-founded UPN with Viacom in 1995 and owned 50% of the network before selling its stake in UPN to Viacom in 2000. Fox television stations purchased Channel 13 and most of Chris Craft's UPN stations in 2001. However, CBS continued to operate Channel 9 as an independent station as Fox renewed its affiliation agreement for its UPN affiliates. It is widely believed that Fox used Channel 13 as leverage to keep UPN on Fox-owned stations in New York City and Chicago, being WWOR-TV and WPWR-TV, threatening to drop the network in those markets should Viacom move the UPN affiliation in Los Angeles to Channel 9. This issue became moot with the January 2006 announcement of the merger of UPN and the WB into the CW television network. The new network launched on September 18, 2006 with former WB affiliate KTLA as its Los Angeles outlet, due to an affiliation agreement with owner Tribune Broadcasting that resulted in 16 of Tribune's WB affiliates joining the CW. KCAL-TV remains an independent station and is currently one of 13 stations owned by CBS as a result of the CBS-owned CW stations reverting to independent status in 2023. On April 21, 2007, KCBS-TV and KCAL-TV moved from Columbia Square to an all-digital facility at the CBS Studio Center in Studio City. The move allowed both stations to begin broadcasting all locally produced programs in high definition, and in addition, the two stations operate in a completely tapeless newsroom. This newsroom is named in honor of newscaster Jerry Dunphy, who worked at both stations during his career. With the move to Studio City and public television station KCET Channel 28 moving to Burbank, KTLA is currently the only remaining station in Los Angeles, either in radio or television, whose studios are operated out of Hollywood. That's pretty interesting, Christian. With Cumulus under bankruptcy, could Odyssey or Cox be potential buyers? I think it's possible for both that they could become potential buyers. I mean, if Cox were to purchase Cumulus, they would return to Houston with KRBE, which is currently owned by Cumulus. KCAL-TV shut down its analog signal over VHF Channel 9 at 1:10 p.m. on June 12, 2009, and converted its broadcast exclusively to digital television as part of the federally mandated transition from analog to digital television. The station's digital signal relocated from its pre-transition UHF Channel 43 to VHF Channel 9. Sister station KCBS-TV would take over the Channel 43 allocation as it moved its digital signal from Channel 60 as a result of the phase-out of Channels 52 to 69. On January 5, 2023, as part of a general rebranding of its news department coinciding with the launch of new morning news blocks, KCAL-TV changed its branding to KCAL News, which was adapted across KCBS-TV's newscast the same day. In October 2025, the news operation was rebranded again as CBS News Los Angeles to match the branding scheme used by other CBS-owned stations, whereas the station reverted its branding back to KCAL-9. Programming. Although KCAL-TV is an independent station, it will occasionally air CBS programming due to extended breaking news coverage or special events that may result in programs being unable to air on Channel 2. For educational and informational programming, Channel 9 has the Go Time syndicated block. KCAL-TV was the Southern California home of the annual MDA Labor Day Telethon between 1997 and 2011. In June 1979, KCAL-TV aired Thames on 9, a week-long primetime programming stunt that features programs from Thames Television, then a member of the British ITV network. Shows that aired during that week include Men About the House, on which the American sitcom Three's Company was based, and The Benny Hill Show. A similar stunt had aired on KCAL-TV's former New York sister station WOR-TV 2 years earlier. From 1981 to 1985, Channel 9 was home to Elvira's movie Macabre. KCAL-TV was also home to the live broadcast of the Strawberry Festival Parade in Garden Grove, California from 1986 till 1989. Sports programming. For much of its history overall, sports has been a part of Channel 9's identity. Indeed, during the station's 2-decade licensing dispute, its large slate of sports programming was essentially the only thing that kept it up as part of the Southern California television landscape. As of 2023, KCAL-TV has the rights to 6 games a season from the NHL's Los Angeles Kings, produced by Bally Sports West, which is now FanDuel. But those networks will be going away soon. KCAL-TV was also the home to the Kings in the early 1980s and during the mid to late 1990s. As of 2025, KCAL Plus also holds the broadcast rights to the Ontario Reign, the minor league affiliate of the Kings. Since 2024, KCAL-TV has the rights to select matches featuring Orange County SC of the USL Championship. KCAL-TV previously held the broadcast television rights to the Los Angeles Dodgers, carrying a slate of games from 2006 to 2013, televising at least 50 games each year, with all telecasts being broadcast in HD. In 2014, KCAL lost rights to the Dodger telecast to the cable-exclusive regional sports network Sportsnet LA, which is co-owned by the team and Charter Communications. Channel 9 is best known as the longtime broadcast home of the NBA's Los Angeles Lakers. The station carried Lakers games from 1961 to 1964 as KHJ-TV, and again from 1977 until 2012. The latter 35 years were the NBA's longest consecutive station-team broadcast partnership, and coincided with the Lakers' golden eras of the 1980s and early 2000s. For most of Channel 9's second season with the Lakers, it aired road games only. In 2012, KCAL lost rights to the Lakers telecast to the cable-exclusive regional sports network Spectrum Sportsnet and Spectrum Deportes, which is now, as I mentioned, Sportsnet LA, which would be renamed in 2016 after the merger of Time Warner Cable and Charter Communications. From 1961 to 1963, KHJ-TV was the first television home of the Los Angeles Angels. The baseball team's telecast would move to Channel 5 in 1964 when then Angels owner Gene Autry's Golden West Broadcasters purchased KCAL. The TV rights to Angels games returned to Channel 9 in 1996. The Walt Disney Company's ownership interest in the Angels briefly overlapped its stewardship of the station, and added more basketball coverage that same year with the Los Angeles Clippers, in addition to its Lakers telecast. The station and the Clippers parted ways in 2001 as they eventually moved their over-the-air telecast to KTLA, while the Angels left the station after the 2005 season, moving to Channel 13 the following year. In addition, KCAL-TV had broadcasted selected weekend Mighty Ducks of Anaheim games from the NHL team's inaugural season in 1993. Both the team and Channel 9 were Disney properties until 1996, and those broadcasts would last until 2006, when the Ducks moved their over-the-air broadcast to Anaheim licensed independent station KDOC-TV Channel 57, which is now a religious station. Also, at the end of the 2013 season, the Dodgers would part ways with Channel 9, becoming cable exclusive on Sportsnet LA, although a few games per season have been seen on Channel 5 since 2016, thus ending the station's 36-year run of local sports coverage. Channel 9 also carried select Los Angeles Galaxy Major League Soccer games until 2005, when the games became cable exclusive to what was then Fox Sports West. In 1997, KCAL premiered the first 15-minute weekday sports report, Final Quarter. The show was an expansion of the typical 5-minute sports report seen towards the end of a newscast. Several years later, the show was renamed KCAL 9 Sports News, and with the purchase by CBS and the formation of the duopoly between Channels 9 and 2, the show was renamed Sports Central. It has since expanded to a half-hour broadcast Friday through Sunday nights. Channel 9 has aired preseason coverage of the NFL's San Diego Chargers from 2005 to 2016, and also broadcast games from the Chargers' AFC West rivals, the then Oakland Raiders, in 2006, whose preseason games also aired on the station during the mid-90s. Although Los Angeles returned to the NFL in 2016 via the Rams' return after 2 decades in St. Louis, sister station KCBS is the Rams' preseason partner. After 2016, the Chargers relocated back to Los Angeles after 56 years in San Diego, and Channel 7 picked up the Chargers preseason coverage starting in the 2017 season. Channel 9 broadcasts 2 NFL on CBS games during the 2017 regular season as part of an arrangement with the NFL that saw CBS get both a Rams and Chargers game on weeks when Fox had the doubleheader. Since its founding in 1994 up until 2008, KCAL was the originating station of the annual John R. Wooden Classic College Basketball Game. Newscasts. KCAL-TV presently broadcasts a total of 61 hours of locally produced newscasts each week, with 10 hours each weekday, 6 hours on Saturdays, and 5 hours on Sundays. Because of the amount of news programming on the station, Channel 9 is known for showing the most police chases among the Los Angeles market's news-producing stations. Often regular news programming on KCAL is suspended to cover a police chase, and programs that follow the newscast are sometimes preempted to show the chase's conclusion. In 2003, KCAL reported a quadrupling of ratings every time a police chase was shown, with up to 1.6 million viewers watching at a given time during such events. Between 2012 and 2020, when he moved to KTTV Channel 11, chases were often shown with the voice and in-air helicopter camera work of Stu Mundell. Since 2021, former KNX pilot Desmond Shaw took over Mundell's role as the duopoly chief's helicopter reporter. In the 1970s, KCAL-TV aired a primetime newscast at 10 p.m., which was later moved to 9 during the 1980s. The station subsequently added a half-hour newscast at 8 p.m. during the late 1980s, and also carried afternoon newscasts throughout this time. Some of its most notable personalities included anchors George Putnam, Chris Harris, Stan Borman, Tom Lawrence, Nathan Roberts, Lonnie Lartner, Linda Edwards, and weather personality Andrew Amador. Shortly after taking over, Disney invested $30 million on upgrading the station's news department, tripling the number of staff and investing on electronic news equipment, including expanding the station's studio facility at Paramount Studios to house a new newsroom and studio. The station also hired veteran newscast Jerry Dunphy, Pat Harvey, Larry Carroll, and James Velez Mitchell, after retaining in the interim the existing 8 and 9 p.m. news and a delay on its launch from January 15th. On March 5th, 1990, Disney implemented the concept of a primetime news block, with the 3-hour-long Prime 9 News airing from 8 to 11 p.m. A few years later, in the early 1990s, Channel 9 added a short-lived half-hour newscast at 6:30 p.m. known as First 9 News, which focused primarily on local news and competed against the national network newscast aired on channels 2, 4, and 7. Channel 2 also aired a 6:30 p.m. newscast during the mid to late 90s, while the CBS Evening News aired at 5:30. Under Disney ownership, more daytime newscasts were added to Channel 9 weekdays at 2 and 3 p.m., and the 6:30 newscast was discontinued. A local newscast will return to that time slot in the market in January 2009, when KTLA Channel 5 launched its own 6:30 p.m. newscast. Joey's in the house. What's poppin'? Nice bowling tonight, Chief. KCAL-9 is notable for airing newscasts during unconventional time periods. The station maintains the large amount of local newscasts that it presently does, which is far more than what is typical of most stations involved in a duopoly with a major network station, simply due to the fact that KCAL and KCBS TV's newscasts air in time slots that do not compete against one another. As a result, the station's newscast schedule remained unchanged until Channel 9 merged its operations with Channel 2. Along with newscasts at noon, which it competes against Channel 5, 4 p.m., which it competes with Channels 7, 5, and 4, and 10 p.m., where it competes against Channels 5 and 11, and 7 nights a week at 8 and 9. KCAL's newscasts are variable in tone depending on the time slot. Its 8 p.m. newscast is generally an update on the day's news, which largely features stories focusing on California and the Los Angeles area, and was previously branded as the California Report during the Prime 9 News era. Its 9 p.m. news is generally the most serious in format, and was branded in previous years as the Prime 9 News World Reports. That newscast prominently features political, business, and international news. The noon newscast, on the other hand, features lighter stories, including features on food, health, and the entertainment industry. The 4 p.m. news was essentially a repurposed Channel 2 newscast and was presented by former KCBS anchors Harold Green and Ann Martin, who did not appear recently elsewhere on KCAL-9. The 4 p.m. news was moved to Channel 9 from KCBS-TV in 2002 to make room for Dr. Phil, which by contractual stipulations was not allowed to air opposite The Oprah Winfrey Show, which locally aired in Los Angeles at 3 p.m. on Channel 7. Until its syndication run ended in September 2011. The 10 o'clock news is simply more of an update of the 8 o'clock news, and during the Prime 9 News era was simply branded as the 10 o'clock report, as it competes with both KTTV and KTLA, and in the past, KCOP Channel 13, though in recent years it had been shortened to 30 minutes, to make way for the local sports news program, Sports Central. On April 1st, 2008, CBS television stations ordered widespread budget cuts and staff layoffs from its stations. As a result of the budget cuts, roughly 10 to 15 staffers were released from Channels 2 and 9, including reporters Jennifer Sabin, Greg Phillips, and Jennifer Davis. 4 p.m. co-anchors Green and Martin who were then also the 6 p.m. anchors on Channel 2, were also said to have been on the layoff list, but both decided to retire from television upon the June 2009 expiration of their contracts. On April 23rd of that year, former KTTV anchor Rick Garcia joined Channel 9 and was paired with Pat Harvey as a co-anchor of the station's weeknight newscast at 8 and 10 p.m. Garcia is now paired with Sharon Tay, as Harvey moved to sister station KCBS-TV to co-anchor that station's 5 and 11 p.m. newscasts. News Central era. On September 19, 2009, Channels 2 and 9 rebranded the newscast on both stations to the unified News Central brand, unrelated to Sinclair Broadcast Group's now defunct national news division of the same name. CBS coincidentally owns former Sinclair station KOVR in Sacramento. The newscasts were refocused to cover more community news, including stories from outlying communities. Local news headlines from the Los Angeles Newspaper Group and Media News Group newspapers were displayed on a ticker. Street team submissions of videos and photos from viewers were featured. Reporters ended stories with News Central rather than the individual station brands, and microphone flags and news vehicles were branded to show both stations' logos at once. Previously, the KCBS and KCAL logos were displayed on alternating sides. Under the News Central format, the two stations claimed that they covered more local news than any other television station in the country, with reporters in Ventura County, the Inland Empire, and Orange County, and the only Los Angeles TV station with 2 helicopters, subcontracted to Angel City Air, owned by reporter Larry Welk. Ed Asner was used to introduce the new newscast. CBS denies this move was made in response to other stations pulling news gathering resources. On December 10, 2009, CBS television stations hired Steve Malden to replace Patrick McClanahan as president and general manager of the KCBS KCAL duopoly. That week, the duopoly ultimately rescinded the News Central branding, reverting to the CBS2 and KCAL9 news identities. The News Central graphics, mic flags, and logos remained in use during the interim, though on-air staff no longer used the News Central identity. Recent history. On January 14, 2012, KCAL debuted 2-hour-long weekend morning newscasts, airing at 7 a.m. on Saturdays and Sundays, which follow 1-hour newscasts on Channel 2. The programs are KCAL's first morning newscast. Ironically, though, Channel 9 was the only news-producing station in the market that did not have a morning news program on weekday mornings. KCAL has quite a storied ownership with a lot of ownership, programming, and staff changes. Yes, they do. On December 10th, 2014, KCAL announced it would be dropping its hour-long 2 p.m. and half-hour 3 p.m. newscast by the end of the year to be replaced by Judge Mathis and the People's Court. As a result, the 4 p.m. news was truncated from an hour to 30 minutes, and Inside Edition, which was on at 3:30, would move to 4:30, previously occupied by the other half of the 4 p.m. news. As of September 11, 2017, KCAL has reinstated the second half hour of the 4 p.m. news and making the news a full hour. On July 12, 2022, Channel 9 announced that it would launch a 7-hour morning newscast from 4 to 11 a.m., replacing that of KCBS and marking the first ever weekday morning newscast in the station's history. The new KCAL News Mornings launched on January 5, 2023. At this time, KCBS replaced its existing morning newscast with a broadcast of the live Eastern edition of the network's national morning show, CBS Mornings, which would air at 4 a.m., followed by a simulcast of the 6 a.m. hour of KCAL News Mornings. In addition, to emphasize the station's history and reputation for local news programming, all newscasts across the KCBS KCAL duopoly were rebranded as KCAL News, and the station changed its on-air brand from KCAL 9 to KCAL Los Angeles. On October 13th, 2025, Channels 2 and 9 rebranded their news operation as CBS LA. As a result, KCAL reverted back to its on-air brand as KCAL-9. Alright. Notable alumni of KCAL-TV include Jerry Dunphy, Mike Emanuel, Carter Evans, Rich Fields, Hal Fishman, Harold Green, Pat Harvey, Jim Hill, Sharon Ito, Lisa Joyner, Christine Leahy, Tawny Little, Dave Malakoff, Ann Martin, Byron Miranda, Lena Nguyen, Charles Perez, Cassandra Peterson, who was the host of Elvira's movie Macabre and retained full rights to the Elvira character after departing Channel 9. Also, Hank Planty, George Putnam, Bill Ritter, Tracy Savage, David Sheehan, Kent Shocknett, Don Steele, host of The Real Don Steele Show, Mark Steins, and Jane Velez Mitchell. Now to technical information. Subchannels. The station signal is multiplexed. Alright. Main KCAL-TV programming can be seen on 9.1 at 1080i HD resolution and a 16:9 aspect ratio. Channels 9.2 to 9.5 broadcast in 480i high definition and a 16:9 aspect ratio. The Nest is on 9.2. Sinclair's science fiction network Comet is on 9.3. HSN is on 9.4 and QVC is on 9.5. And then on 9.6, which broadcasts in 720p high definition and a 16:9 aspect ratio, is KCAL Plus. And the station also carries MeTV tunes. KCAL-TV operates 7 translator stations throughout Southern California, including K21MH Daggett, California, K29NN, and K32OX, both in Lucerne Valley, K32EM in Morongo Valley, K21IN in Ridgecrest, K17GJ 29 Palms, and K16LB Yucca Valley. And that's going to do it. That's going to do it for the TV station history of KCAL-TV. One of the longest running television stations in Los Angeles. Alright. I'm on Wikipedia about the... Okay. Next up, we'll be taking a look at the PBS stations in Los Angeles. We'll first look at the major or the primary PBS station, KOCE-TV. Then we'll look at KVCR-TV and KCET. So those are coming up in the next 3 editions, so make sure you join us for that. Oh, there's also KLCS. That's another PBS station. We'll be looking at that too. And we'll look at the 3 major Spanish language stations in Los Angeles: KMEX Channel 34, KFTR Channel 46, and KVEA Channel 52. So more LA stations coming up on the next editions of TV Station History. For now, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and happy watching. Peace out.